most recruiters aren't being paid what they're truly worth. Welcome to Amplifying Recruitment. In this episode, I'm joined by Jon Brooks. Jon is the only pricing expert for the recruitment industry. And in this episode, he's going to break down how you can increase the perceived value of your service to your clients. He'll share some of the hints and tips around the psychology of your pricing. He'll talk about how to create a menu of services and a whole host more. If you want to be paid more for the work that you do as a recruiter, this episode's for you. Jon, welcome to Amplifying Recruitment.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, for anyone that doesn't know you, will you do a quick 30-second intro?
Yeah, sure. So I am the only pricing consultant in the recruitment industry. I've been in the industry 20 years and choose to stay in it. It's a great industry. But yeah, I help recruitment agencies, recruitment owners with their pricing strategy. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, getting better fees, but also presenting your value in better ways and winning better business.
What was your background before?
So I was at Reed for over a decade. And now with hindsight, I just call it ops. But did a whole range of things there. But built different services, different products that consultants could sell to get into different markets, different levels of markets. And when you build different services, you can't price them the same as everything you've got.
Yeah,
because they're different. So that was really interesting. I was like, how do you price something? So trial and error for a long time. And then actually I learned from the experts how to do it. And there's pricing theory. It's very psychological. So psychologists in universities test this stuff and prove what works. So we'll talk later about having a menu of services. 3 is the magic number. It's been proved. And I love that. Like, running a business is so ambiguous, right?
Yeah.
So for someone to be able to say, oh yeah, that's what you should do, that's the best way of doing it, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Amazing. Like you said there, I'm the only. That's a proper super niche, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the recruitment industry is great as well. Like, probably the people I enjoy working with most are the ones who just surprise me with how niche they are. They're like, oh yeah, I only recruit, I don't know, medical experts, finding new drugs for cats or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like,
in Berlin.
In Berlin, only in Berlin, within a 5-mile radius. But it's possible. And that's what a real expert looks like. And the more of an expert you are, the more value you add. So I really like the way a lot of the industry is going with that expertise.
Okay. Big question. Is recruitment valued?
Oh, yes. So I run a podcast called The Value of Recruitment. And there's 2 angles. Firstly, is it valuable? Massively. Is it valued? It's undervalued. And I think what's surprising is it's undervalued by our clients, but it's undervalued by us. I think most recruiters, most recruitment leaders even, undervalue the power of and the impact of what they do for their clients. And the knock-on effect of that's so pivotal to everything, to running your business. So the knock-on effect of that is you get treated as a transactional supplier, or you interact as a transactional supplier because you don't value what you're doing. You don't take a seat at the table that is there for you. You get pushed down on rates. People won't pay you upfront fees. They're like, well, I'll pay you if you do a good job. That trust isn't there. So it's so key to running a successful business. And I think it's key to the success of our industry is, we need to value what we do first, and then we need our clients to value it more. But it has to start with us.
Is there a so when you go into a business then, is there a mindset piece in there before you do anything else? Of, like you said, like most recruiters don't truly, well, lots of recruiters maybe don't truly value what they do. Is that part of what you do, or is that for someone else? Is it your
Yeah,
job to show practically what they should be doing?
no, massively. It's a mindset shift, and you've got to get that belief. And again, there are brilliant examples from other industries. This is not a problem that is unique to recruitment. Yeah, you go into any sales team in any industry, there's a chance, there's a danger that they're underselling what they do. They're selling transactionally, not consultatively. So it's not a unique problem to us, but it's a big problem for us. Yeah, I think of one client I worked with last year. So the director had come in from a different industry, so she didn't have a recruitment background. So she bought in as a co-owner, and she said, "I'm just so surprised by the lack of belief in the value of our service." So she was doing that. She'd come in. She was from the tech industry. Her old business had a range of products, had a range of services. Yeah, and they believed in them. And she came in, she was like, "This is a massive problem." So yeah, together we worked on, as you say, mindset as much as the tactical things of how to get the right price or how to build the strategy.
So we start with the broken stuff then. So what's the biggest flaw that you think, like obviously we're generalizing 30,000 businesses in the UK.
Yeah.
What's the biggest flaw that you see when it comes to like pricing models, or how recruiters or recruitment businesses approach pricing?
Yeah. Okay. The first question I ask any business owner, any recruitment owner is, how did you come up with your price?
Yeah.
This is a podcast. I have to explain what I just did. Lick your finger, stick it in the air. It's just guesswork. No one knows where their prices have come from.
Have they sometimes come from just looking over the fence and going, well, that's what they charge, so we'll do it the same?
Oh, I was at Hayes. There was another agency, so it's kind of a mix of those. Maybe I knocked a couple of percentage points off to win business. So okay, that's pricing strategy as it is. So for the majority of the industry, it is finger in the air stuff. As you can imagine, if you don't think about something as important as what price you're charging, there are various problems with that. One of the interesting things is some people, some business owners come to me, they say, "Great, I want to do things differently. I want to get away from this percentage model." There are actually some good points to percentage, charging a percent of salary. It's not necessarily the finest way of doing things, but when salaries go up, our fees go up. So my theory is one reason recruiters aren't great at negotiating is because we don't have to negotiate annual price increases. If you're selling a can of Coke, the price has to go up. And if inflation is 10%, as it was a couple of years ago, that price has to go up quite a lot. We don't have to have those discussions with clients for the most part. So we are fortunate with some of the kind of the legacy pricing approaches we've got. But yeah, the approach we're taking is not thought through. It's not being modernized. It's not taking advantage of what I said earlier, proven models that work in other industries.
So the biggest flaw is it's guesswork. There is no strategy.
Let me throw in another one. Most recruiters offer a one-size-fits-all service. So let's take perm as an easy example. A client says, "I've got a role on." The recruiter says, "I can recruit it." And if they're a better recruiter, they'll try and talk about their value and say, "Oh, we've got these 10 steps, we've got these 20 steps, we've got these 30 steps," whatever. Maybe they'll talk about why they do those steps. That's great. So that's really progressing the conversation and getting into value. But it's a single service. It's a single approach for every client. Now, you're probably thinking, not all clients are the same. So why would a single approach work for everyone? So the danger there is if you're if you're offering a premium service, you're offering it to everyone. Some of your clients just don't want that. Maybe it's got psychometric testing. And you say, this is so important. This is great. This is why I'm offering this service. If the client doesn't want psychometric testing, they're paying for something they don't value. At the same time, there are clients out there. If you offer a one-size-fits-all service, you can't offer a super deluxe version because it will price you out of the market for 90% of the market. So you don't showcase how good you could be because you'll lose business almost all the time. But that means when you come across a client who actually, you may not realize it, but they are willing to really invest in this problem, they would pay more, you're still just going out with the same one-size-fits-all service. So that really kind of ties our hands behind our backs in terms of being more consultative, offering a more tailored set of services that work for different clients.
I was just, as you were speaking there, I just thought about like that first question of, is recruitment valued? Do you think, is there an element where, I use the collective like we, have we unintentionally trained clients to undervalue us? Or like have recruiters unintentionally trained clients to undervalue them? Is there some of those behaviors just signaling, I don't know, that message? Is that self-created?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know your view on this, but I'm a big believer in you can't blame clients for not understanding something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you can't say, oh, clients don't get my value. Like they shouldn't understand recruitment at all. Yeah, and if you do, and maybe if you're talking to HR and they're an ex-recruiter, brilliant. But even then, they've only got a memory of one way it was done in the past. So yeah, it's definitely on us as recruiters to make our pitch, to take the client through that. So do we undermine our services? Do we train our clients in the wrong way? I think we do. Yeah, how many recruiters say, oh yeah, I'll match a competitor, or even, what's your budget? If we're not confident in our price, we're showing our clients that, that price probably isn't worth it. That where is the value? And matching competitors just because a client says, oh, someone else said 15%, would you do 15%? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
That completely devalues everything you've done up to that point. So certainly the recruitment agencies I work with, they invest a lot in, there is so much to invest in: marketing, sales, tech stack, website, outreach, the time you put into LinkedIn, becoming experts, all of that stuff and so much more. So you build up that value, it goes up and up and up. It's a really premium position, really premium offer. I'm the only person in this sector who really knows this. I'm the expert you need. Oh, someone else has offered 15%. Would you do it? It all comes crumbling down again.
Yeah.
It's like, you might as well have not bothered trying to be a premium recruiter. Now, I don't think that's the answer. I think we need more specialist experts in our industry, and that's the way I see the industry going. But we need to then, when we sit in front of clients, as you say, educate them and show them, this is my price because you're getting a premium service here, or there's huge value to what I'm giving you.
So what's the first steps to fixing this then?
It's a good point. I think mindset is a massive one, as you say. Then if we look at pricing models, there are just better pricing models out there that have been proven in other industries and that we are used to coming across in our daily lives. So none of this is scarily cutting edge or hugely innovative in a way that people won't be able to grasp. Consultants, clients, some of the models I help recruitment agencies implement, they're models you see every day. So if I give you one example, some people call it tiered services. For simplicity, I call it a menu of services. Some people call it productization. But yeah, for me, having a menu of services, it's really common in the B2C industries. It's being adopted slowly in B2B, but where it is, it's really powerful. So we can do that. And it's the opposite of having a one-size-fits-all approach. So when I talked earlier about all the problems of trying to offer the same service to a very diverse group of clients who value different things, you can fix that by having a menu. I talked about other industries where we see it. A couple of examples. You might want to fly to New York. British Airways can take you there, but how you get there, you can fly first class and pay 10, 20 times more than someone sat at the back by the toilets. So that's an example of different tiers of pricing. Now you're in the same tin can, taking the same journey. They're not dropping you off halfway. You get to the same destination. So people are willing to pay for the experience, for how you get somewhere. So if we apply that to recruitment, I think we often focus too much on the placement as the point of value. But using the airline analogy, New York is the destination, but a lot of the value is, well, how are you getting there? The legroom, the fancy champagne, how you're treated. Or you want to save that money and spend it all in New York. Horses for courses.
So what's then the, and I love this. I love this analogy. And I think there's, the example I often talk about is buying holiday insurance, that you go like, this is our super one and we'll cover you for £1 million of healthcare should you get sick and luggage and all of that. But you can also get a really basic one that says like, if you lose your bag, like there's £1,000 excess, but we'll help you with the rest, but that's it. I think that, like exactly as you said, it plays out in so many other industries, but for some reason within the majority of recruitment business, we're not implementing that.
Yeah, and I think the word that is coming across stronger and stronger to me, recruitment leaders want to be as consultative as possible with their clients. And so that's from the moment of selling onwards. They want to sit down and be consultative and be seen as a consultative partner. If you're selling a single service and trying to kind of crowbar it into what the client might need, that's not consultative, that's sales. If you're sitting down and saying, look, there's different ways we can do this, what's important to you, that feels consultative. So even at the point of selling, you're showing your client, this is what it's like to work with me. Because if it's a new client, you can tell them you're going to be consultative. Yeah. But anyone can tell them. Yeah, they're trying to figure out what it's going to be like to work with you. And they won't know until they start working with you. But if the sales process is consultative, if you're listening to what they need and what they value, and then showing that you understand your market and you understand people like them by saying, oh yeah, we have a series of packages, we have a menu of packages that fit different needs. Now it sounds like this package might be more useful to you based on what you've told me. But actually, if cost is also an issue, it becomes a consultative conversation. Where do we want to go here? What's the right thing to do?
And so what's the starting point for building that menu or that productized service? That you've got the 3 different offerings. How do you go about going, well, you get that one, this is what that one involves, and this one and this one? I know obviously you'd spend a hell of a long time doing this with a business when you're working with them closely. What's like the top line stuff?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think what's interesting is I rarely have to sit down with an agency and say, you need to create new value. You need to offer new things. It really is about packaging it. So I think a good agency is already offering quite a wide range of services. Now, a lot of it is offered as free added value, which is painful for me. I struggle with that word.
What, free or added value?
Free. No, I love added value. Yeah, let's get more added value. But don't add more value and then say, and you can have it all for free.
Yeah.
Again, I talk about lab studies. People have tested this. When people pay for stuff, they value it more. When it's free, it's just a throwaway. You don't really engage with it in the same way. So, and that's really important when we're experts giving advice.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, that's just free added value. That's just relationship building. It's like, no, we can package that.
I see this play out in training, by the way. It's funny. This is a conversation I had yesterday. And we were talking about this same thing of like value stacking, and this phrase come up of when you pay attention.
Oh, I like that.
And then we've nicked it from someone else. I can't remember.
Well, I'm nicking it back. So, yeah.
but I completely get with that, is that we could deliver free training sessions for people all day long, and they'll take in a small portion of it, ask them to come and pay £2,000 to listen to it, and all of a sudden they're scribbling notes and thinking about how they're going to implement it, and they value it a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this is the price paradox. Price is the measure of value, as in you offer something, you get value from it, you pay. The number you pay is the price. But it also drives value. So the number you put on it changes how much someone perceives the value to be. So it's a really complicated thing when you get into it. Maybe that's why some people just haven't thought about it before.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but I'm here to help.
Okay. So I suppose slightly different take on that then. So if there's someone listening to this that hasn't got a menu of services or productized anything, and it's 20% and we do all this stuff for you, what's the starting point for that person of creating a menu of services?
I think it's sitting down and working out all the value you offer. Like I said earlier, because we offer one size fits all recruitment, we get beaten down by clients on price. So they think, we got to shrink our value, got to shrink our services because we're not getting paid much for it. But actually think, this is a good exercise. What would the very best service you could offer to the very best client be? So all shackles off, price no object. If someone just came to you and said, look, do everything you need to do at your very best. And actually we talked about mindset earlier. That's a really freeing exercise to say, because we get beaten down on price so much and we get questioned on value so much, but just forget all of that for an hour. And it's a good team exercise, but say, what are our best selves? What does that look like in recruitment terms? And once you've got that, it's much easier to start thinking, okay, well, we've got all of this stuff. That's not going to be relevant for everyone. So how would we package that?
And 3 is the magic number. You just tell me, like, your eyes kind of lit up when you talked about like the psychology behind all of this. You just share some thoughts or insights on that.
I mean, it's been tested in various ways, but the most famous study was, again, these scientists, part of me wishes I'd gone into this career because it sounds like a great laugh running all these experiments. So they hired a stall at a market and they said, right, we're going to sell jam. So I'm presuming their partners back home are like, oh yeah, that's good. What are you doing today at work? So I'm on the jam stall. It's like, hang on, aren't you a psychologist? Aren't you a top level scientist?
Professor at Harvard.
Exactly. So, well, yeah, but I've got to sell the jam today. So they, every day they sold a different amount of jam. So they put different types of jams and different amounts. So the maximum they had 24 different types of jam on their stall. What was interesting is they got loads of interest. So footfall was really high. People coming to the stall were like, oh, look at all this different stuff. But they were overwhelmed by the choice. So actually sales were really low. And I think there's probably quite a lot of lessons you can learn from that. Being focused is helpful to our customers and clients. So don't overwhelm them with too much. But yeah, then they tested it. You just have a single type of jam. People go past and go, well, I haven't got any choice there.
Yeah.
We're so spoilt for choice. You think, oh, well, maybe there's a better jam somewhere else. So actually having 3 types of jam there, I mean, it's also called the Goldilocks principle. That one's too hot. That one's too cold. That one's too jammy. that one's too red. That one's too purple. I like that orange one in the middle. Because we're able to compare, that's really powerful. Now, if I bring that back to recruitment, because it's probably about time I did. If you go in with a single service and a single price, your client is asking that exact same question. How do I put this in context? So you go in and say, yeah, this would be 22%. They're like, is that a lot? I have no idea. You've given me nothing to show whether that's a lot. I want context. How do I get context? Well, if you haven't given me any context, why don't I go to a couple more agencies? So that's an awful outcome for the first agency. Go to a couple of other agencies and I'll find out what they charge. That gives me context. That's what I'm looking for as a client. When we go in with a menu of services and we use the magic number of 3, if we say, I'll make the numbers up, but right, you can pay 25% for the top service, 22% for the middle service, 20% for the cheaper service. You've given them context. What doesn't that client need to do anymore? Go and get more context. It's just a waste of time for them. So they say, oh yeah, the Goldilocks principle comes in. They're like, well, that's a bit too expensive. That's a bit too cheap. Well, that one in the middle is just right. And people don't always choose the middle option. Yeah, people who fly first class don't want just right. They want too expensive.
Yeah. Reassuringly expensive.
Reassuringly expensive. Again, yeah, all these phrases exist because it's true, because we're driven by these psychological effects.
Something else that you said earlier that's kind of stuck with me. You said around you said something about trust from clients, and I think you said they don't trust you to give you the money up front. I'll pay you once you've done a good job. I suppose in a recruitment sense, you'd go, well, that's contingent recruitment and that's retained recruitment.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that and where pricing comes into it?
Yeah, I think trust is key. As a few points here, I think we don't spend enough time building that trust. And the other word I use a lot for, if you want to win an upfront fee, is take time to build the demand. If someone wants to work with you, really wants to work with you, and trusts you to deliver, then when they pay you is irrelevant to them. If they don't know you that well, if they don't really trust whether you'll fill the job or not, why on earth are they going to give you money up front? You imagine going back to your boss and being like, oh, that $5,000 on the P&L on our costs, that's that was because I paid someone. I didn't really know them, but I gave them $5,000.
Yeah.
That's not a good conversation. That could be a really bad conversation for the hiring manager. Whereas the same thing could happen, but they could go to their boss and say, yeah, that $5,000, that was because I got the best agency. They are the people we've always wanted to work. Yeah, and actually a good agency should be targeting the boss and the hiring manager at the same time. So they're both saying, yeah, we really want to work with that person. Of course, we'll pay them whatever they ask us. Now, what's interesting is I see some great recruiters who haven't got the confidence, don't realize they've built that demand already, that they could ask for money up front. Now, you've probably noticed I don't use the word retainer very much because it's recruitment jargon.
Yep.
Clients don't always realize it. Americans think it's what you put on your teeth. So it creates confusion. Internally, we have loads of debates on LinkedIn about it. So it gets that whole culture war issue. So it comes with baggage. Let's just keep it really simple. if a client really wants to work with you, say, great, our fee is this. You pay a little bit now and the majority on placement. Again, you can put it in 3 parts if you want. It just doesn't matter. The technical aspects of when they pay is not what we should focus on.
It's interesting. Again, like you talk about like other industries, they do the same thing. You buy a new piece of software, they'll say, yeah, there's the implementation fee, or there's the commitment fee, or the kickstart fee. It's the I don't know, the initial payment, whatever it is. It's and that really just struck a chord there. We say the baggage that comes with that. I think that's
the phrase you used earlier, you pay attention when you pay.
Yeah.
If a new software, I think a lot of people listening to this will have bought in new software. If it's a free trial, how much do you commit to it? You're like, well, I'll try that tomorrow. There's a load of other stuff gone. If the supplier has built up the demand, so you're like, wow, I really want to use this, I'm really excited, and you've paid for it, you're like, I've put $5,000 down on this. This is a project. This is a priority for me to do this month, is test this out. I'm excited and I've put money into it. So why can't recruiters take that same approach?
Where does the contingent versus retained, maybe there's an exclusive piece in the middle as well, where does that fit into the menu?
Good point. It comes in too often. So I'm going to say it shouldn't.
Okay.
But it too often does. So I see, this is good. I mean, I've been doing this, I've been running my own business, helping agencies with pricing for 5 years. And when I started, I did not see many examples of agencies with menus of service. Obviously, I've helped some do that, but I've seen others take it on themselves. And that's great. People are thinking differently. But I think probably the biggest mistake I see when people have done it themselves is they say, I've got 3 perm services. I've got contingent, exclusive, and retained. And again, first up, it's jargon. There's no value communicated by saying that. Even worse, when a client works out what you're saying, do you want the pay up front version, the don't work with anyone else version, or the you don't have to pay anything unless I'm good version? That's a horrible message to offer. And guess what? Clients, if they don't see if they're not steered in any other direction, are just like, why would I pay up front? And why would I lose the flexibility of being open to other people? So it's really technical, low value language.
So is the wording important there? Like, should it be called like, I don't know, like the flex model, the something else model?
I'm really glad you said that. I thought you were going to say, a lot of people say platinum.
Oh no.
And you end up in credit cards where you have to pay for them, or things like insurance. And we're better than insurance. We're way more valuable than insurance. We don't want to be selling insurance. So rather than saying, you've got your gold and your platinum. My recommendation is always the naming should be really as emotive as it can be. And there's various different ways you can do that. You can link it to your brand. If you've got a strong brand, you can link it to the industry you're working in. So I worked with someone who recruits in the kind of digital visual space. And one of the things we played with was like 4K, HD, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can also have aspirational. So is it growth? Is it flex? If you can reflect what your clients value and the language your clients use, that's really powerful. And again, take something as dull as gold, silver, bronze, or even worse, exclusive, retained, into something where they're like, I can see myself doing this. Yes, you get it. And again, you want clients to say, wow, you get us. I want that.
And so just to be clear then, so we've got these 3 models, and you're saying they shouldn't go contingent, exclusive, retained with a nicer name, like flex, something, partnership, whatever they are. They shouldn't go like that. It should be 3 different levels of value and service. And then we always drive for a retained offering?
That's a later part of the process. That's
Okay.
a later part of the conversation. So what I said a minute ago, we're still in the building demand phase. So what we want is for the client to say, yes, I want to work with you and I want to work in that way. Be that first class, paying you a lot of money for an incredible service, or economy,
Yeah.
not paying you very much, but I'm aware you're not going to give me everything that you're capable of. Once they've said that, so we want to work with you, we want to work with you in this way, that's when we talk about price and the technical bits around price. So
Okay.
the transactional stuff, right? When are you going to pay me? Are you going to be working with someone else? But leave that until we've really got the client committed and bought into it. And then, again, horses for courses. I think my personal belief is if you can, getting money up front is a much better business model. A lot of people I work with aim for a blend, so a mix of what we call contingent and retained. I think more and more recruiters are saying it's exclusive or I don't work it. And I really like that. I think multi-agency, I think good recruiters are saying no to multi-agency, which I'm sure you agree.
I think there's a place for multi-agency, but I think for the most part, yeah, and sometimes the question with this, because I've just been around it too long and I'm too old and long in the tooth to go, there's no way I'm competing against 5 other people and working for free. Like, I'm just not doing it. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that should be where everyone is positioning their business.
Yeah. But that transactional discussion, when are you paying me? Payment terms. There's a lot of boring stuff around pricing. That should just be parked. That should come with the terms. Once the client has said, yeah, I'm excited to work with you and I think working in this way is the right way. And therefore I know I'm going to pay more or less.
So slightly different question then. So when you've got clients that have, I just said about being long in the tooth, but maybe they're long in the tooth. They've done this for many years, dealt with lots of recruiters, and you come in with your beautiful menu and you've got this service and this service and this service, and this one's 22%, and they still hit you with your fees are too high, we pay 15% down the road. Like what are your thoughts around that, of how you tackle some of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean it's a hot topic, especially at the moment. There is a real risk of race to the bottom. I don't know, I could talk for an hour on the problems of race to the bottom. Who are you competing with? In a nutshell, I think that's the key thing. If you've created 3 packages that understand what your different clients value, different client types value, and what you're able to offer, then that positions you really nicely in that scenario to say, great, so what are the other agencies doing for you at that lower fee? And the client won't be able to answer it. Probably the other recruiter wouldn't be able to answer it. But the client would just say, oh yeah, they said they'd give us their top service.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting because it's very cheap priced for a top service. Tell me more about them. So you can play on the differentiators or the USPs you've got as a recruiter or as an agency. But with this menu of services, you can also say, look, I can show you, I can justify why my price is my price. Talked earlier about context. We put it in context. This is the expensive one because this is the middle one because we've taken some stuff out, but you still get a lot of value. This is the cheaper one because we've taken some of that value that you don't want out. Tell me again what that competitor was offering. And I don't remember.
Yeah, they don't know. And I think that falls back onto most recruiters do a really terrible job of telling their clients what they're going to do for them. It's like, take the job brief, like, leave it with me, I'll send you some CVs. And even the people that aren't the best recruiters in the world are doing a ton of stuff. Yeah. And they're not telling the client all the work and effort that's gone in. So I think that's a great question.
There's 2 sides to that. I think level 1 is, I think we really should be explaining more of what we do. Yeah, because clients don't understand, but they'll only engage somewhat in that. It's not their area of interest as a client. So they definitely would like to see more. They'd like to understand a bit more about what's going on. But in terms of value, what we really need to answer more is, why are we doing it? So what are we doing? It's like, oh, I'm going to all these job boards and I'm paying this here and that there. And let me tell you all about the job boards. The client's like,
yeah,
could you not? I don't want to learn about job boards today. Let's just get on with the recruitment. If we say why, then the client's engaged. So they say, oh, well, earlier you told me you've struggled to reach the right people at the right time. Well, we do these 3 things to increase your reach. So we're doing this. Why are we doing this? Because we're going to solve your problem of not reaching enough candidates or the right type of candidates. So if we can do more of the what, absolutely, I agree, we're not doing that, and then include the why, that's the bit that the clients really connect to and say, oh yeah, that's valuable.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing here, so we were speaking before we press record on the cameras and mics, we were talking about falling at the final hurdle. So you get to the end of a process or to the latter stages of a process when things are serious, and then the client says, can you do it cheaper? Someone down the road can do it cheaper. Like, what are your thoughts on that, and how do we, ways of tackling that, I suppose, or mitigating against it?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the risk. You've built up so much value. You've put so much into this to create this premium image and this belief in the client that, wow, you're really good. You really stand out from other recruiters. And that's what we need to do. So the client's starting to believe that. And then we say, if we say, oh yeah, we'll match anyone else. Well, we're just the same as anyone else then.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Coca-Cola would just say, oh yeah, we'll match. Yeah, you can get a Coke for the same price as the cheapest
Lidl
cola.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I mean, I don't know what the value of Coke is, but you devalue Coke. People go, oh, that's not what I'm looking for. So as you say, you really do fall at the final hurdle. So I think it's really important. The phrase I use is soaring at the final hurdle. That's the bit where you want to be the most confident. You want to say, yeah, this is my price. I've justified it. I can justify it again. I'm confident in it. You want your client to smell that belief in your own value. Because the alternative to the client says, I'm not sure you value what you do. I'm picking up hesitancy here. And that's horrible. I'll give you a specific example. I've heard this a few times recently, and I think most people will have come across it. You get the buy-in from, let's say, the hiring manager and their director, and then the final hurdle, suddenly the FD pops out of nowhere.
Yep.
Finance. Oh yeah, no, we're cutting all our suppliers by 20%. Oh, you've got to match anyone else. Oh, we've got these agencies and you've got to push back, but it's really difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy. But you've got to have the confidence. And for me, it's about having process. If you've got a process to fall back on, I call it different things, but either guidelines you work to, or you've got a framework in place for that scenario to say, oh no, this is why. So if you are trying to wing it and just solve that problem on the hoof, very difficult. Because finance directors are very good at crushing people on price.
Yeah.
So don't go in unarmed is, I think, my main advice there.
The last little thing that I want to cover, the time's absolutely flown by, but something else that I suppose is probably worth talking about, because I've seen it firsthand in businesses, is where the leadership of the business is doing or lots of the things that you're talking about. We've got this is how we work and this is how we present our value. But you've got a recruiter who's at the coalface and the client says, no, I can't do it unless you do it for a flat $5,000 because the company down the road are doing that. And the recruiter is going, yeah, go on then, because I'll still get £1,000 commission from that. And actually they're devaluing potentially the whole business, right? That's completely at odds with the creating high levels of value that the business leaders are thinking about. You must see this play out or a variation of that play out.
Yeah, and when I look at people's pricing data, you can see they stand out like a sore thumb, and they are not one-offs. There's a really interesting phrase called price contamination.
All right.
So you agree to that 5K one-off. Is this fair? There's a hybrid consultant. They've got some nice, they're near threshold because of their temps or their interims that are out. So they're just like, oh, great. Yeah, $5,000. And that tops me up.
Yeah.
I get exactly what I want from that. But actually, that should be a 15K fee. But that contaminates that consultant's belief in what they do next, contaminates that client. Someone from that client might go somewhere else and then come back to the agency and say, well, you've done it I know you, I remember, it's great.
Yeah.
You did it for 5K and you did a good job. But it also contaminates everyone else in the agency, because it's up on the board. It's a lot of agencies I speak to are like, oh, we don't have any pricing strategy other than we don't go below X. And then I look at their data and they have gone below X.
You do.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't go below once. Once they've gone below, you then see a trickle because, of course, that barrier no longer exists. You can see it's contaminated, it's broken. So it's really important. Yeah, that should not be on the individual recruitment consultant. I think they're almost doing the right thing. If there's no guidelines and they want to get bonus to have a nice holiday, what have they done wrong? The leadership have to have put a range of things in place. They need process, they need guidelines, they need potentially sign-off levels. I'll come back to that. They need culturally for the organization to know what good looks like. And that's not a single average fee. Yeah, you've got a menu of services. You'd be like, well, if someone's coming in asking for our top option, a discounted rate should be 28%. That's the lowest we'll go. And 27% at that level is bad business. But at the same time, we might pick up business at 16%. That is good business for these reasons. And you need the whole organization to be on board with that and understand that. The reason I caveated saying the kind of checks and balances is I love how much autonomy recruitment consultants have. And for the most part, I want to keep that. But autonomy without boundaries, autonomy without the guidelines of knowing what's right, means you are relying on every single recruitment consultant in your business to be good at negotiation. And that's not going to happen. Whereas you can give them the tools and the frameworks to say, great, I have the freedom to negotiate this deal. This is my deal. I'm sat in front of the decision maker. I'm going to close this deal. And I know what good looks like, and I know where I can move and where I can't move. And that comes back to what I talked about earlier. That gives them the confidence to say, yeah, this is my price. This is why it's my price. I may be able to flex for certain reasons. But you are confident in what you're doing.
Brilliant. And that all comes back to an embedded sales culture, doesn't it? You used the word culture a minute ago. Jon, this has been brilliant. I could sit here for hours and talk about this, but we're out of time. If for people listening that want to know more, how should they get in touch with you? How can they consume your content? All of that stuff. Plug away.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I need to add value, don't I? So I'm on LinkedIn. So if someone has questions, they can come to me. If a recruiter can't find me on LinkedIn, they probably shouldn't be a recruiter, right?
They can't spell Jon and Brooks. And then
Although Jon without an H, Brooks without an E. It's minimalist, Jon Brooks. I write a Substack, so it's an email newsletter on pricing strategy in recruitment. So if you've been interested in what we've talked about, subscribing to that is probably a good idea.
And it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's kind of you to say. So that gives you tips and ideas, and I gently show you ways that you can engage with me more. I can help you with, what does your value proposition look like in the eyes of your clients and things like that. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Great to join you. Cheers, James.